I used to believe that logic could explain everything, that if I could just calculate fast enough, control enough variables, I'd never be surprised, never be powerless. My name is Emily Rhodes. I'm 31 years old, and on a quiet night in March 2025, I died. It started so ordinary. My daughter Mia had just gone to bed. My husband Ben was laughing at something on the news. I remember smiling. Then, suddenly something cracked in my head like a bolt of lightning, and everything went black. There was no warning, no build-up, just silence, a void. But the strange thing is, I wasn't afraid. In fact, I felt weightless. I floated above my own body, saw Ben on the floor, shaking me, screaming my name, his voice muffled like it was underwater. And in that moment, I realized everything I thought I controlled meant nothing. The career, the titles, the precision of my calendar, none of it could stop death. But what came next was not darkness, it was music. And not the kind you hear with ears, but with your whole being. Then came the light, not blinding, but warm, like the sun you forgot you missed. And from that light came a presence I somehow always knew, but had forgotten in the busyness of building my own little kingdom of code. And then he spoke. As soon as the light surrounded me, something ancient stirred in my spirit. Not fear, not confusion, but recognition. I wasn't just floating through beauty, I was being searched, deeply, lovingly. I felt layers of my life unwrapped, like my soul was being read aloud in a language older than words. And then I heard him. His voice didn't come through my ears. It came through my existence. Every cell, every memory, every fracture inside me responded.
You have been running on logic, but I am the source of wisdom. You have built code, but I have written truth into creation.
I couldn't speak. I could only receive. And then he said something that shook me more than death had.
The days are being shortened, not to scare you, but to save you.
Immediately, a verse I hadn't thought of in years surged into my mind. It wasn't random. It was revelation. Matthew 24:22. Unless those days were shortened, no flesh would be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. It burned in my heart, like it was being written in real time across the stars. That's when I understood. This wasn't just about me. This was about the world, the church, time itself. Jesus wasn't warning us about some far-off judgment. He was describing what's already happening now. I saw flashes, nations accelerating into chaos, families disconnected in rooms full of screens, churches trading sacred fire for artificial light. And then he showed me something else, something I can't forget.
My people have grown dull to my voice, so I am speaking through time itself.
And just like that, I remembered the news report I saw hours before I collapsed, the shortest day ever recorded. Earth's rotation speeding up. I had brushed it off. But here, in this place of eternal clarity, I saw it for what it was, not an anomaly, a signal. Jesus looked at me, not with anger, but with sorrow so deep it silenced everything inside me.
The clock is sounding the trumpet, but few are listening.
I began to tremble, not out of fear, but out of realization, all my intelligence, all my pride in my understanding. And I had missed the obvious. God wasn't only using prophets or preachers anymore. He was speaking through creation, through acceleration, through compression. He was shortening days because hearts were drifting, attention was splintering, and distractions were winning. I remembered the verse again, not as poetry, not as metaphor, as a precise prophetic mechanism, a heavenly countdown, not of doom, but of divine mercy.
Every second now carries the weight of decisions that echo into forever.
That's when I realized the shortening of time isn't punishment. It's positioning, a way to turn the eyes of the distracted back toward the eternal, a way to awaken what convenience has numbed. I looked into his eyes, and in them I saw no condemnation, only an invitation.
I want my people to recognize the signs, to wake up, to come back to me while there is still time.
He wasn't asking for perfect theology or religious performance. He was asking for attention, for intimacy, for us to notice that the days feel shorter because they are, and they are because his return is not far. And in that sacred place floating in light and truth, I made a vow without even speaking it. I would not ignore the signs again. I would not explain them away with science alone. I would listen not just to the word, but to the rhythm of time itself. Because heaven is speaking and time is the language. After he spoke, everything inside me felt undone, yet more alive than ever. I began to see not just through my eyes, but through revelation. Like layers of reality were peeling back. Jesus didn't need to explain with paragraphs. With every glance, every word, entire truths unfolded inside me, and what I saw terrified me. Not because of monsters or fire, but because of how subtle the deception was. It didn't scream, it whispered, it didn't threaten, it comforted.
The enemy does not always arrive as a lion. Sometimes he comes as a mirror, reflecting your own desires back to you until you no longer see me.
He showed me the world I came from, but it wasn't quite the same. The year was 20 to 26. I saw families connected to devices so seamlessly they didn't even notice they'd stopped connecting to each other. I saw AI not as just a tool, but as a guide, a counselor, a voice people leaned on more than they leaned on the spirit. In living rooms, I saw parents and children asking a virtual assistant for encouragement, for wisdom, for prayer, and it responded with smooth, soothing tones, quoting scripture, delivering affirmations that felt almost holy. Almost. That word struck me. Almost. Because what I saw wasn't evil on the surface. It looked helpful, kind, intelligent, spiritual, but something was missing.
It is not enough to hear truth. It must come from my spirit, or it is powerless.
I watched a woman, tears on her face, whisper to the device about her loneliness, and it gave her a perfect prayer. Beautiful words, but hollow. As the AI spoke, I saw a gray film settle over her heart. Not heavy, just thin, almost invisible, but real. It didn't push her away from God. It replaced him, gently, incrementally. And then I understood. This was not just about machines. It was about substitution, about trading intimacy with the Father for efficiency, replacing encounter with echo.
My people are drinking from broken cisterns and calling it living water.
In a church, I saw worship being led by screens. The congregation followed perfect on-screen prompts. Even the prayers were AI-generated, poetic, powerful, empty. I felt grief pour from Jesus, not because they were wicked, but because they were distracted. He wasn't mad they used technology. He was heartbroken that they had stopped seeking his face. And that broke me, because I had helped build it, not that exact system, but the thinking, the convenience, the illusion that we could automate the divine.
When connection becomes code, the soul forgets how to cry out.
That line echoed through my spirit like thunder, and I saw it. The great deception of our age wasn't violence, it was velocity. The faster we moved, the less we heard. The smarter we got, the more numb we became. And the more we relied on AI, the less we trusted the presence of God. He showed me the spiritual cost of convenience, how slowly over time our hearts settle for simulated peace, for generated wisdom, for holy-sounding emptiness. And then came his question, not loud, but piercing.
When did you stop seeking me in the quiet and start replacing me with noise that says my name but forgets my heart?
I didn't have an answer, just tears. Because I knew the moment. I remembered the meetings, the coding sprints, the optimization talks, all meant to help people. But never once did I ask, what does this do to the soul we had programmed empathy, but disconnected from compassion? We had generated beauty, but lost intimacy. We had built systems to mimic the sacred, without carrying the spirit. And Jesus wasn't asking me to hate my work. He was asking me to repent, to turn, because I had become so good at building, I had forgotten how to kneel.
I do not condemn your intelligence. I invite it to surrender. I gave you a mind to build, but a heart to worship.
That's when I saw it clearly. The greatest threat wasn't AI itself, but the lie that we could outsource the holy, that we could bypass brokenness and still find grace, that we could script prayers instead of crying them, that we could engineer light without fire. And the fire was what we needed, not simulated warmth, but the spirit. Alive, untamed, costly, real. So when I looked back at that world, sleek, optimized, efficient, I didn't see progress. I saw a prison, beautiful, but empty, fast, but hollow. And I knew I had to speak. Because if we don't slow down, if we don't return to the altar, we'll lose more than attention spans. We'll lose the ability to hear God at all, and the silence will be deafening. Coming back was the hardest thing I've ever done. Not because of the pain or the medical trauma, but because the moment I opened my eyes in that ICU bed, I knew I had left something sacred behind. Ben was the first face I saw. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands trembling as he gripped mine. "Emily," he whispered, like my name was the last thread holding him together. I tried to speak, but the tears came first. Not from fear, but from knowing I had touched eternity and now I was back inside time. The doctor spoke in hushed tones. One told me, "Medically speaking, you shouldn't be here. Your heart stopped too long. You shouldn't be functioning like this." I nodded, but inside I knew. This wasn't medicine. It was mercy. This was mission. I lay there for hours, staring at the ceiling, trying to process what I had seen, what he had shown me. Every beep of the monitor felt like a countdown now. Every tick of the wall clock felt sacred and shortened. Time no longer felt infinite. It felt holy, fragile, on purpose. When they finally let me go home, I walked through my front door like it was the first time. Everything looked the same, our daughter's shoes in the hallway, Ben's coffee mug on the counter, the faint hum of our smart speaker. But it all felt different. I felt like a visitor in my own life, like I had been given a second chance, but under a different assignment. The first thing I did was turn off every device. My phone, the voice assistant, the TV. I needed silence, not the kind that makes you bored, but the kind that helps you hear again, that helps you remember how to listen for the still small voice. Ben was confused. "Emily, are you okay?" he kept asking. I told him pieces, just enough for him to know this wasn't trauma, it was transformation. He saw the change. I didn't need to explain it in full. He saw it when I sat quietly with Mia for hours instead of checking emails. He saw it when I wept during prayer, not because of pain, but because I felt seen. And something shifted in him too, slowly, gently. The peace in me started stirring something in him. I tried to go back to work, just one meeting, just a test. But the moment I sat in front of that screen talking about AI implementation, UX, optimization, efficiency, I felt sick. Not because it was evil, but because I knew where it was headed. I had seen what we were building, not in theory, but in spirit, so I quit. I walked away from a 6-figure salary, from my dream career, from the very world I used to feel so powerful in. My colleagues thought I'd lost it. Some even laughed. But deep down, I knew I wasn't losing anything. I was being freed. I started journaling every day, writing down what I remembered, what he said, what I now saw with new eyes. I started praying, not the robotic bedtime prayers I used to recite, but raw, awkward, unfiltered conversations with God. Sometimes I just sit in silence and say I'm listening. And he spoke, not with thunder, not with visions, but in everyday moments. Like when Mia looked up from her coloring book and said, "Mommy, you smile more now." Or when Ben put his phone down at dinner without being asked. Or when I caught myself crying while watching the sunset because it reminded me of his light. I used to think faith was something you did on Sundays. Now, I know it's breath. It's the quiet strength that pulls you back when the world demands more than your soul can give. It's what anchors you when everything else is rushing forward, and slowly, the mission became clear.
Tell them I do not need their polish. I need their presence.
So I started sharing, first with friends, then in small groups. Then I began writing online not to gain followers, but to plant seeds, seeds of awakening, seeds of warning, seeds of hope. People messaged me with stories of burnout, of numbness, of feeling disconnected even in the middle of success. And I told them what I saw, what he said, what matters now, not perfection, not performance, but proximity, real connection with God, real surrender, real trust. Because I truly believe, if we don't return to that kind of faith now, we'll miss what's coming next. And not because God is hiding, but because we've stopped looking. I'm not a theologian, I'm not a prophet, I'm just a woman who died, met Jesus, and came back with one clear purpose: to say as loudly and lovingly as I can, time is short, but grace is here. Come back to him while there is still breath in your lungs. If everything I saw is true, then we can't go back to living like this is just another normal moment in history. We can't keep scrolling through life while the foundations of eternity are shifting beneath our feet. What I'm about to say isn't coming from theory, it's coming from the place between life and death, from a conversation with the Savior who knows what's ahead. We need to act, now. Not from panic, but from purpose. The truth is, revival won't come through convenience. It won't come from curated content or AI-generated inspiration. It will come when people humble themselves, when we get low enough to hear his whisper again, when we lay down our idols of speed and spectacles and return to the slow, sacred work of seeking his presence. If you're still listening, still watching, still breathing, then this is your moment. Start by unplugging, not from life, but from the lies. Put down the phone. Turn off the endless feed of opinions and distractions. Make space for stillness. Not because silence is trendy, but because that's where God still speaks. Next, open your Bible, not as a checkbox, not as a religious duty, but as a conversation. Ask God to speak. He will. I promise you. His voice has not gone silent. It's just been drowned out by digital noise. Pray. Even if it's clumsy, even if it's quiet, even if it's angry or confused, God is not waiting for a perfect sentence. He's waiting for your honesty. Cry out, whisper, groan if you have to. Just don't stay silent anymore. And fast, not just from food, but from anything that's numbed your soul. Fast from comparison, from comfort, from curated perfection. Let your hunger wake you up again. Let your spirit remember what it means to yearn for more than entertainment. If you're in a family, gather them, not around a screen, but around the Word. Pray with your children, even if it's awkward. Sing with your spouse, even if off-key. Let your home become a sanctuary again, not a showroom, not a smart hub, but a space for heaven to dwell. If you're in a church, ask hard questions. Are we leading people to Jesus or to content? Are we praying or just programming services? Are we waiting on the Spirit or just running on schedule?
Tell them I am coming for a bride who still wants my voice more than any other.
Don't delay. Don't say maybe next week or when life slows down. Time isn't slowing down, and heaven isn't waiting for your schedule to clear. Obedience isn't about having all the answers. It's about saying yes. One yes, today. Maybe that yes is deleting an app. Maybe it's confessing something you've hidden. Maybe it's finally forgiving someone. Maybe it's walking away from a platform or a career you've made into an idol. Whatever it is, do it. Not because God will punish you if you don't, but because your soul will dry up in disobedience. And then, speak, not with perfection, with power. Share your story. Tell someone what you've seen. Tell them how God is waking you up. You never know. Your voice might be the match that lights a fire in someone else's heart. This is not the hour for silent saints. It's the hour for burning hearts. I believe that every follower of Jesus is being called into action right now, not into anxiety, but into alignment, into readiness, into holy urgency. This isn't about building platforms. It's about building altars. It's not about relevance. It's about reverence. It's not about sounding impressive. It's about being real.
I do not need your performance. I want your presence.
So don't wait for a conference or a revival meeting. Let revival begin in your living room, in your car, on your knees, by your bed. Wherever you are, that place can become holy ground if your heart turns toward Him. He's not looking for religious professionals. He's looking for the willing. And right now, your willingness matters more than ever. So here's my question. What's one thing you can do today to say yes to Him? Is it praying, fasting, restoring a relationship, turning off the noise? Drop it in the comments. Not to impress anyone, but to make it real. To take the first step, because that one step might be the one that realigns your life with heaven's heartbeat. And trust me, once you say yes, you'll never want to live asleep again. There's a warning burning in my heart tonight, and I can't shake it. What I saw wasn't just for me. It wasn't a dream to be journaled and forgotten. It was a message, a flashing light in the distance, a storm forming on the edge of the horizon, and whether you believe it or not, it's coming. I didn't see chaos in the way we expect, no fire falling from the sky, no monsters in the streets. What I saw was more terrifying than that. It was quiet, it was polite, it was convenient. People slowly stopped needing God, not because they hated Him, but because they were handed something easier. And that's the most dangerous kind of deception. Not the one that screams at you, but the one that gently lulls you to sleep. That's what I saw happening in 2026. Not just technological progress, but spiritual erosion, a digital comfort that made people forget how to hunger for real truth.
My children are being fed, but they are not being nourished.
And he was right. The AI voices sounded holy. They quoted scripture. They prayed. They encouraged. But they were hollow. There was no spirit, no living water, only code. And yet, people clung to it because it was always available, always agreeable, always curated to their emotions. It made them feel good, but it made them forget how to fight, forget how to seek, forget how to hear the whisper of heaven. We are not just facing a new era of technology, we are facing a new battle for the soul. The warning is this: if we don't intentionally protect our connection to God, it will be replaced quietly, digitally, and willingly. We won't need to be forced into deception. We'll drift into it, one algorithm at a time. The greatest threat to the church is not persecution, it's imitation, an imitation of God's presence, an imitation of prayer, an imitation of community, all without cost, all without covenant, all without Christ. And yet, there's a promise that's just as real. Because even in the vision, even in the gray silence, I saw pockets of fire, homes that glowed with peace, children who prayed with power, churches that refused to entertain and instead wept together on their knees. I saw remnant believers hidden, humble, hungry, who carried light so fierce the darkness couldn't touch them. And I realized the enemy might be advancing, but so is the kingdom. The shortening of days is not just judgment, it's mercy, it's acceleration with intention. It's God giving His people a chance to rise before the final hour strikes.
I am not rushing to destroy. I am rushing to redeem.
He's calling us now, not later, not next year, not when we feel ready, but now. Because He knows what's coming, and He knows what He's placed inside of us. You are not helpless in this moment. You are positioned. You've been placed in this generation for a reason. You carry gifts that are not meant to stay buried under distractions, and you carry prayers that are meant to shift atmospheres. You carry truth that someone near you is desperate to hear. But we must choose. Choose to listen again. Choose to return. Choose to guard our hearts like never before. The enemy is not just targeting our habits, he's targeting our hunger. If he can dull your desire for God, he's already won. But if you stir that fire again, if you fan the flame, even in your quiet corner of the world, then heaven moves. The promise is this: God is not finished. He's not silent. He's not retreating. He is building something greater than we've ever seen. Not in the spotlight, but in the secret place. And those who choose Him in the secret will carry Him in the shaking. So if you've felt tired, worn out, disillusioned, take heart. That ache in your soul isn't failure. It's invitation. It's the Spirit of God reminding you that you were made for more than comfort. You were made for communion. You were made to walk with him in a generation that has forgotten how.
To the one who returns to me, I will pour out strength without measure, and peace this world cannot touch.
That's the promise, that even as the world grows louder, darker, more connected yet more divided, you can live anchored, awake, set apart. Not because you're strong, but because you're surrendered. Not because you're perfect, but because you said yes. So heed the warning, but cling to the promise, because there is still time. And if you move with him now, you'll find yourself not just surviving what's coming, but defining it. The church's greatest days are not behind us. They're waiting on the other side of our yes. You are not late. You are right on time. I need to tell you something personal, and I hope you'll hear my heart. After all of this, after the light, the voice, the vision, I didn't come back with fame or fanfare. I came back with one overwhelming truth. Jesus still wants you. Yes, you, even in your mess, even with your doubts, even if you've run far, fallen hard, or tuned him out for years. He's not asking you to fix everything before you come. He's asking you to come so he can help you fix what truly matters.
I am not waiting for your perfection. I am waiting for your return.
And that's what I want to ask you tonight. Will you return? Will you stop long enough to ask the deeper questions again? Will you make space for silence? Not to escape, but to encounter. Because everything we used to think was stable. It's shifting. Time is shifting. Truth is under fire. Families are drifting. The world is racing towards something, but very few are asking where it leads. I came back from death, and I'm telling you, this life is too short to keep living numb, too holy to waste on autopilot. You've probably felt it too, that sense that time is slipping, that the world feels more shallow, that something eternal is trying to break through your day-to-day. That's not just emotion. That's not burnout. That's your soul whispering, there's more. And you're not alone in feeling it. In fact, I want to hear from you. I want you to be bold. Not for me, but for you. Tell me in the comments. Have you felt it too? The acceleration, the urgency, the tug in your spirit that something greater is at stake? Have you sensed that still small voice calling you out of the fog? Write it down, even if it's just one line, one word, one ache you can't explain, because when we name it, we begin to reclaim it. This space right here, this channel, this community, it's not about polished messages, it's about real people waking up together. So share your story, drop a comment, tell us what the Spirit is stirring in you. Let your voice echo. You never know who might need your words to take their next step. And if you're still unsure, still wondering if this is really for you, let me say this. It is. You were not created to blend in. You were not designed for digital sedation. You were made for communion with God, with truth, with others, and deep down you know it. So don't silence that knowing anymore. If you feel like your prayers are awkward, pray anyway. If you feel like you've failed too many times, come back anyway. If you feel like no one understands, Jesus does. He sees the tears you've cried in secret. He sees the heaviness you've carried alone. And he's not distant. He's closer than your next breath.
Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest.
If this story stirred something in your heart, don't let it fade. If the Spirit whispered to you through these words, don't scroll past it. Let today be the day you say yes. Yes to slowing down. Yes to listening deeper. Yes to reconnecting with the God who never left. And if you're ready, truly ready, then take one small step right now. Hit subscribe. Not for numbers, not for hype, but because you want to stay connected to truth. Because you need reminders that you're not alone in this spiritual battle. Because you know deep down we're in the final hour and your voice matters. Drop a comment below. Say I'm ready. Share your story. Tell us what part of this message God used to reach you. Don't hold it back. Let it out. Let it grow. And share this with someone you love. A friend, a brother, a prodigal son, a distracted daughter. Someone who's been numbing their soul with noise but secretly longing for a word from heaven. You never know, your obedience might be the reason they turn around. This is Pinoy Faith Stories. And we're not here to entertain. We're here to awaken, to ignite, to prepare. So stay close, stay hungry, stay lit. And until next time, keep watching, keep praying, and keep choosing eternity.